the current FBI director pled the fifth in the matter where he ended up providing grand jury testimony. We've never had an FBI director come through this committee who had pled the fifth before. As you know, when you plead the fifth, to do it honestly, you have to have a good faith belief that your testimony would subject you to criminal liability, which meant if Patel was being honest, he had a good faith belief that his testimony would subject him to criminal liability. As that went forward, he ended up getting immunity from the government in order to testify. If this were a court, a civil court, a judge would allow an adverse inference to be drawn against the witness who had asserted the fifth. In Patel's proceedings, we were never even allowed to get to the bottom of the grand jury testimony. Why he pled the fifth, what he said, all of that was papered over as he went through this committee to confirmation. So for obvious reasons, I pursued that question, just as you would, Chairman, if the shoe were on the other foot. And I believe that Patel lied to us in the committee. He said that he couldn't share his grand jury testimony, and I'm quoting him here, because there's a court order on that case. He said, I can't go into court orders granted by the DC District Chief Judge. And then when I pressed him further, he challenged me saying, you want me to violate a court order? He then went on to say to Senator Booker that his grand jury testimony has been sealed by the Department of Justice and I'm not allowed to discuss it here. Well, as it turns out, none of that was true. All of that was false. And we know that because the DC District Chief Judge, who he mentioned in his false statement to this committee, said, and I'm quoting the judge, July 2025, Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E allows witnesses like Patel to divulge the contents of their testimony, meaning that nothing was preventing him from doing so before the committee, unquote. So it sure looks like he lied about that. So in his recent testimony, I asked him again. And now he offered the committee a new and different lie, which is that he had released the transcript already. He said, first of all, I'd love my grand jury testimony to be released. I want it made public. And then he said, I wanted the transcript released and I will get it to you, sir, to me. I wanted the transcript released and I will get you the transcript. He said to me, we can confirm that pursuant to my action, that grand jury testimony has been released, the transcript. He said the transcript has been released publicly. He told Senator Booker, well, I don't have the grand jury transcript. That's why I released it. So, as it turns out, no transcript was released. He was making up that lie, probably to get away from having to answer our questions. But now we have an FBI director who first lied in committee about a non-existent court order and had that lie exploded by the actual judge who he claimed had him under court order, and then lied in committee about having released a transcript that we all know has not been released. I think on that state of facts, we're entitled to get the transcript that he says he wants us to have, that he says he released publicly, and that the judge has confirmed is not under any court order of protection. So, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to working with you. I know you have a strong interest in FBI chiefs testifying honestly in this committee and not lying to Congress to try to get to the bottom of what is going on, because those seem like two pretty flagrant and obviously provable lies. And we'll follow up for further assistance to get to the bottom of this. But I don't think it's asking too much.
What happens when the person sworn to enforce the law becomes the one accused of bending it, right in front of Congress? That was the tension hanging over the room as Senator Sheldon Whitehouse laid out, piece by piece, why his concerns about FBI Director Kash Patel go far beyond politics and straight into credibility, honesty, and the rule of law itself. Whitehouse began by grounding everything in a simple but stunning fact. The current FBI director once pleaded the Fifth Amendment in a criminal matter that later required him to testify before a grand jury. That alone was unprecedented. No previous FBI director had ever come before this committee carrying that kind of history. And pleading the Fifth, Whitehouse reminded everyone, isn't a casual move. To do it honestly, a witness must believe, in good faith, that answering questions could expose them to criminal liability. In Patel's case, that belief was serious enough that the government ultimately granted him immunity so he could testify. In any civil courtroom, Whitehouse noted, a judge would allow an adverse inference from a witness who pleads the Fifth. But here, Congress never even got to examine what Patel said, why he invoked the Fifth, or how the issue was resolved. Instead, the matter was quietly smoothed over during the confirmation process. That alone raised red flags. But what came next, Whitehouse argued, crossed a line. When pressed in committee about his grand jury testimony, Patel repeatedly claimed he was barred from discussing it because of court orders. He told senators he couldn't talk because a D.C. district judge had sealed the testimony. At one point, he even challenged lawmakers by asking whether they wanted him to violate a court order. That explanation sounded authoritative. It also wasn't true. Whitehouse revealed that the very judge Patel cited later made something unmistakably clear. Under Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E, witnesses are allowed to disclose their own grand jury testimony. In July 2025, the judge explicitly stated that nothing prevented Patel from telling Congress what he had said. In other words, there was no gag order, no legal barrier, no court-imposed silence, which meant Patel's statements to Congress about being prohibited from speaking sure looked like lies, as Whitehouse carefully but firmly put it. When confronted again in later testimony, Patel didn't clarify. He changed his story. This time, Patel claimed the transcript had already been released. He told Whitehouse directly, I wanted the transcript released, and I will get it to you. He said publicly that the grand jury testimony had been released, and even told Senator Booker that he didn't have the transcript anymore, because it was already out there. But it wasn't. No transcript had been released. No public disclosure existed. According to Whitehouse, this second explanation was simply another falsehood, offered to escape scrutiny. So now Whitehouse said, Congress is facing an FBI director who allegedly lied once about a non-existent court order, and then lied again about releasing a transcript that everyone knows has not been released. And both claims are easily verifiable. That's why, Whitehouse argued, the solution isn't radical. It's basic accountability. If Patel truly wants the transcript released, as he claims, if it's not protected by any court order, as the judge confirmed, then there should be no obstacle to providing it to the committee. None. Whitehouse closed by appealing directly to the committee's core responsibility. Oversight only works if witnesses tell the truth. And when the nation's top law enforcement official is accused of offering two pretty flagrant and obviously provable lies, Congress has an obligation to follow up. Not for politics, not for spectacle, but to protect the integrity of the FBI itself. Now the question turns outward. Should Congress demand the transcript and force the issue into the open, or let this moment pass like so many others? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so these moments don't disappear into the noise.